to assure them we on this side that we are fully committed. We love Nigeria, we love the country.
Day 6 of nationwide protests. Top military chiefs meet in Abuja to address growing concerns.
New opportunity that is creating a new partnership.
Now is the time, and ICAC is ready to help with Nigeria.
Efforts to revamp textile industry on the way as federal government meets with International Cotton Advisory Committee. INEC releases final voters list ahead of Edo and Ondo states governorship elections. Plus, Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board clarifies minimum age for admission into tertiary institutions. Good evening and welcome to the Network News on NTA. I am Elizabeth Omori. Ajola Komiakere will be reading from our Lagos Network Center. Benny Adams, our busy businessman, will bring us business reports. And Ayodeji Makinde will bring us up to speed on happenings in Paris. Ayo, if we are to consider our blessings outing tonight, what should we be expecting?
Elizabeth, quite unfortunate, some bubbles were burst, but there's still reasons to be optimistic. Blessing is out, more blessings ahead.
All right. Now remember to follow this news broadcast live on our website as well as other social platforms displayed on the screen. We begin with security matters. Upholding peace, stability and sovereignty through security topped agenda at a joint security press conference convened by the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, to address pockets of unrest by some protesters and the waving of a foreign flag by some restiviates, among them. Defense correspondent Najatu Tijani reports.
When push comes to shove, action must be taken, and this press conference coming amidst pockets of unrest during the nationwide protests aims to do just that.
And so we are duty bound to protect the country. We are only after those that are against the state, not those that are innocent. So I want to make that very clear. We will continue to work together as a team to support Mr. President in achieving his mandate of peace and tranquility in our dear country, Nigeria.
Condemning the flag incident, but addressing some of the demands made by protesters, including the immediate release of protesters still in detention, the security heads say these concerns are being taken seriously.
IDPs are being returned back to Kukawa, Bita, and some other places as I speak to you.
We also understand the enormous pains faced by Nigerians because we're also Nigerians. But we understand that this cannot be addressed through violence.
Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief has addressed the nation, and I can assure Nigerians that a lot is being done by the government to address these complaints and these grievances.
The IGP moves to swiftly quell concerns about the use of excessive force as alleged by videos circulating on social media.
The police and the military, indeed no other security agency involved in the management of this protest has deployed excessive use of force. Instead, what we had was attack on security agents during the protest.
For the DSS, we have continued to gather appropriate intelligence.
Any person who is of interest in terms of these activities going on right now, we will make sure that as they come in, they are handed over to the necessary authority.
But because we have the powers of prosecution, we have secured a lot of convictions.
The issue of food inflation in our markets, food security in the long run. And I'd like to let Nigerians know that there has been a lot that is going on to address these issues that are related.
Upholding peace, unity, the rule of law, and ultimately Nigeria's sovereignty, issues on the table here at the Defense Headquarters, where the Joint Security Press Conference addressed the ongoing nationwide protest. Najatu Tijani, NTA News.
Meanwhile, as residents of Kaduna State continue to comply with the 24-hour curfew imposed to prevent breakdown of law and order, Governor Obasani has gone round the metropolis to check the level of compliance and destruction during the violent protest. Mohammed Umar Ajingi reports that the governor says the State Security Council is monitoring the situation for possible review of the curfew.
Following the violent protests that led to the imposition of 24-hour curfew in Kaduna Metropolis and Zaria, the state governor is here to assess the level of compliance and the extent of the destruction of a bank at Tudunwada, the State Investment Promotion Agency office, as well as a Castelia office along the Government House Road and many others.
We are investigating the situation, and we will try as much as possible to get to the root of those who are sponsoring these very unfortunate things in Kaduna State. When you see young children between the ages of even 9, 10, 11, and even 14, now raising the flag of another country, you will agree with me that it's well sponsored, designed by some elements who are calling for anarchy. What is happening in Nigeria today are people attacking democracy. And I believe all of us must come together to defend democracy in Nigeria, because we must fight for democracy, for it to survive in this country.
He urged the residents of Kaduna to continue to support the security agencies to avoid any further breakdown of law and order in their respective communities. In Kaduna, I'm Muhammad Murajingi, NTA News.
And Kano State government has again relaxed the curfew imposed on the state capital from 18 to 12 hours. Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf disclosed this at the end of a Security Council meeting held at the Government House. Abdullahi Mustafa reports.
As usual, the Security Council meeting was held behind closed doors. Led by Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf, the meeting had in attendance heads of security agencies in the state. The governor announced the decision to review the curfew from 18 to 12 hours to enable residents continue with their daily engagements between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m.
The government is doing everything possible to ensure that our youths are empowered to become self-reliant and to have a brighter future for themselves and for their families.
More than 600 suspects were arrested and been detained by the Kano Police Command. Due to the large number, 3 chief magistrates were deployed to the police headquarters to handle the trial.
Because of the weight of the allegations involved, all of them will have to be remanded, and subsequently trial will continue up to the time that the case will be concluded and will be ready for judgment by the courts.
While prosecution continues, Governor Yusuf's spokesperson Sanusi Akintofa disclosed plans by Kano State government to constitute a commission of inquiry into the violence. In Kano, Abdullahi Mustafa, NTA News.
After days of agitation by protesters in Abuja, normalcy is gradually returning to the nation's capital. Business correspondent Bosode Abel Amusu has an update.
The usual hustle and bustle for daily bread is returning to this part of the metropolis, known as Area 10 UTC, one of the busiest business hubs in Abuja.
Actually, I'm a graphic designer, so I have to come back to work because I have some unfinished job on ground. So that was why I came out. I don't know for any other person.
A drive along some banks showed that most commercial banks are rendering skeletal services and are optimistic things will normalize in Abuja. Bosode Abo Amosu, NTA News.
Now, the Economic Commission of West African States, ECOWAS, sympathizes with the government and people of Nigeria over reported cases of violence in the course of the ongoing nationwide protest. Unfortunate death of some protesters, alleged looting and destruction of public and private property. The Commission in a statement says, although it recognizes the rights of citizens to peaceful protests as guaranteed by the 2001 ECOWAS Supplementary Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance as enshrined in the 1999 Constitution. It urges protesters to heed the President's call in his recent nationwide broadcast to give room for inclusive dialogue for the resolution of all grievances and preservation of peace. Meanwhile, normal activities are gradually returning around Abuja city with security relaxed at strategic places like the Eagle Square and its environs. Our correspondent Joseph Otsen has an update from the Abuja Central area and Moshood Abiola National Stadium, venue of the protest where he visited earlier in the day.
The nationwide protest here at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium is calm, with just a few protesters here, numbered at just about 5. They are staying inside the stadium and not outside. People are not allowed to gather outside except inside at the main board of the National Stadium. But because there are so few, they are hanging around just along the trees. Behind me, there are journalists who are also there to cover the event. But as the days of the national protest wind down, it seems we are having more journalists here than the protesters themselves. Meanwhile, in other parts of the town, like the Secretariat, the Eagle Square, the Unity Fountain, we saw no protesters there. Also, a drive around the town shows that there are more vehicular movement and a lot of businesses opening up. It seems things are returning to normal and there's calmness everywhere. In Abuja, Joseph Otsen, NTA News.
Thank you, Joseph, for the updates. Now to garment and textile. The federal government, in collaboration with the International Cotton Advisory Council, has started the resuscitation of Nigeria's cotton industry with target to create more than 1.4 million jobs annually in the cotton and textile industry. This was the outcome of a meeting between Vice President Kashim Shettima and a delegation from the International Cotton Advisory Committee led by its executive director at the Presidential Villa. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports.
Developing key components of the cotton value chain in line with the industrialization drive of the President Bola Tinubu administration is part of efforts to ensure the country harnessed opportunities in the value chain for Nigeria to regain its membership in the International Cotton Advisory Committee membership. Vice President Kashim Shettima urged stakeholders to come up with a roadmap for the revitalization of the cotton and textile sector in Nigeria, noting that it is time to work more and talk less.
New opportunity that is creating a new partnership for us to cross-pollinate ideas with the experts to bring new skills, new ideas, and new and fresh innovations into revamping the industries in Nigeria.
Part of the things that you see with our garment manufacturer is actually polyester, not cotton. And polyester happens to be cheaper than cotton. Cotton is a higher, grade to sew as against using polyester. And polyester, if our refineries were working, for what we've also been understood now, is actually supposed to be one of the byproducts coming out from the refinery. So really for us is to look at the entire value chain. There's so many things that we can trap back in this country.
That one of the things that killed the textile industry is policy. Now we are revisiting policies to ensure that we restore it and launch Nigeria into the path of economic recovery. As for us at the customs, we are affirming and we are committing ourselves. We do all we can to make sure that we protect the textile industry.
The stakeholders believe that this is the beginning of Nigeria's quest to revamp the textile industry as part of the broad objectives for industrializing the economy.
Now is the time, and ICAC is ready to help with Nigeria to help you achieve your goals as a country, to help create quality jobs, to help generate foreign exchange, and reimagine the global cotton economy and the Nigeria cotton and textiles economy.
Because many of the textiles have closed down because of lack of raw materials, and there's lots of smuggling. So once that one is done, the textiles will come back. We'll have about 70 textiles to come, because today now we have only 24 textile mills in Nigeria instead of 200 in the past. So the booming days will come. and we're going to survive by His grace.
With this commitment, Nigeria is well positioned to harness opportunities in the cotton value chain, given that it hosts the factories, the market, and is a critical component of the business ecosystem for the cotton subsector. From the State House, Abraham Jibrila, NTA News.
And the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, alongside the Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation, will jointly implement the President's directive on expanding areas under cultivation to boost the nation's food security. President Tinubu stated in his nationwide broadcast on Sunday that about 10 million hectares will be made available for production. Musa Baba Aliu reports.
The issue of availability and affordability of food has been at the forefront since the beginning of the current administration. President Bola Tinubu, apart from declaring a state of emergency on food security in 2023, has also directed land clearing for the expansion of areas under cultivation. The target is 10 million hectares in partnership with state governors. This led to a meeting between the Ministries of Agriculture and Food Security and that of Water and Sanitation.
We have set up a committee, a working committee, that will look into all the issues that are there where we can leverage on the abundant water resources and the abundant irrigation land available to the Federal Ministry of Water Resources for the emphasis of Mr. President's food security.
So that is why we are here today, and we are trying our best to put everything that we need, the water facilities, the mechanized facilities, the technical facilities that we have, so that together we can have that joint committee to boost food production in Nigeria.
The Ministry of Water and Sanitation will provide water and other irrigation facilities nationwide.
And Nigerians will see the impact of this initiative within the next 6 months.
Before Christmas, I am sure with this collaboration of giving 2 weeks to do reports, operating government and private sector marriage, Nigeria, it will be a different ball game by Christmas.
With this intervention, it is hoped that farmers will be able to produce food all year round, while quality and affordable food will be available for Nigerians. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
You're watching the network news on NTA. Time to take a break. The news continues shortly. Thanks for staying with us. Ahead of the Edo and Ondo governorship elections coming in September and November this year, INEC has released the final list of voters as the continuation voter registration exercise ends in the 2 states. In Edo State, a total of 2,629,025 registered voters will participate in the September governorship election, while more than 2 million are to take part in the November polls. A statement by INEC National Commissioner for Information, Sam Olumekun, says in the next few days, the Commission will release the timetable for the collection of permanent voters' cards for the 2 states for all categories of voters, including new registrants from the last CVR, voters that applied for transfers, replacements, and uncollected cards from various previous registrations. Senator representing Borno South, Ali Ndume, has brokered truce with the National Working Committee of the governing All Progressives Congress APC over differences with the party, which led to his removal as Senate Chief Whip. He says he regrets his utterances on the state of the nation while making his position known during a live media session, and admitted he would have consulted the party before expressing his views.
It is not surprising that I was invited to hear my own side, and we had family discussions, and actually I've accepted the mistake of not talking to the party as the last point. I promised the party that all my observations as a senior member of the family should have terminated or ended with the party, and that is something that moving forward, but whatever I said or whatever I did was out of patriotism.
What about your membership? Is it still valid?
I know my membership. I have not been expelled. What the party said, even the party did not say
look, we don't want you here. They said, because he's my father. The only thing the party said, like, look, if you don't like this house, you can go any house. Where will I go? This is my house.
We are quite satisfied with the apology. In fact, as he said, we invited him. We are writing to the National Assembly, conveying what has transpired between Senator Ndume and the party. And as you know, he has apologized to the party, and we convey the same issue to the National Assembly so that with hope they can review their position.
The national chairman of the party, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, commends the senator for displaying the spirit of a true party man and urges others to work towards the unity and stability of the governing party. To education, the federal government has unveiled the draft national policy on skills development to solidify its agenda on transforming the nation's education sector. Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman, at the pre-validation meeting of stakeholders, says the path is now clear for the elevation of educational standards. Zenrit Dingmun brings us details.
After a series of deliberations and consultations with development partners, the Federal Ministry of Education has come up with this document that provides guidance and tools towards designing and implementing programs and interventions that promote skills development in Nigerian schools. This convergence, however, is to review and validate the policy with stakeholders' insights and innovative ideas to ensure it meets the needs of Nigeria's diverse communities.
The only solution conceivable for now is for us to couple the education at that level with skills. Soft and hard skills are already working on a curriculum, fresh curriculum, that will be implemented in all pre-tertiary education schools in Nigeria.
This policy aims to bridge the gap between the labor market, ensuring that our young people are not only academically equipped, but also possess the practical skills and competencies that employers seek.
No investment made in skills development and human capacity development is wasted.
Engaging the communities will be vital for effective implementation of this policy.
Indeed, it is very important to have a comprehensive and all-encompassing national policy that addresses all learners, including adults, and their specific skilling needs.
The national policy on skills development in Nigeria is anchored on 4 categories: foundational, transferable, digital skills, and job-specific skills. In Abuja, Zenret Dingmun, NTA News.
For the 2024 admission cycle, candidates who will be at least 16 years old at the time of admission will be considered eligible. Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman, gave the directive at the 2024 tertiary admission policy meeting, where he noted that the extant policy of 6334 will be enforced from 2025 session, as 18 years will be the approved age for admission. Also, the board has directed that all institutions should disclose candidates illegally admitted prior to 2017 whose records are in their system within the next 1 month, beginning from 1st of August 2024, noting that it will no longer attend to such cases, as admission through its central admission processing system must be strictly adhered to by tertiary institutions in the country. Now, to shed more light on this directive is JAMB Registrar Professor Ishak Oloyede. Professor Oloyede, thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Prof, what happens to a child that is not yet 16 but already has admission? Let's hear from you, because most parents are really waiting for you to talk about this.
Yes, thank you very much. I believe that I didn't make the policy, I didn't make the law, and the law was not made now, and the policy was 2013 policy. As far as the Nigerian policy on national policy on education is concerned, in fact, looking at the policy, there is no hiding place for anybody to say that he or she is not aware of the fact that the policy prescribed 18 years, not even 16 years. And that was why we are emphasizing that the Honorable Minister of Education did not enact or did not just give the directive. He was just saying that this is what the rule has said. And for emphasis, if you look, even from the page 1 of the National Policy on Education 2013-2014, it's clear that it stated that Nigerian education system is structured into early child care and development, age 0 to 4. Basic education, 5 to 15 years. Post-basic education, 3 years in junior secondary school, and tertiary education, and so on. And if you go further to section 10 of the same policy, it is clearly stated, that's 2013-2014, not something just created. It says clearly that basic education is the education given to children aged 0 to 15 years. It encompasses early child care and development education 0 to 4 years and 10 years of formal schooling. And it specifies further to say early child care and development education is segmented into 0 to 4 and 1 for those who will be in pre-primary, and that is 5 to 6. And 6 from basic education. And if you go further, so many sections, it's very specific, it's clear.
All right,
so what the Honorable Minister of Education had reiterated is that, in fact, it's because we are in a democracy. The law, JAMB law, prescribed that the Honorable Minister shall give directive on such matters, and such directive should be followed. But the point I'm making is that the Honorable Minister agreed this year that, yes, because we were not notified before, we should still admit 16 instead of 18.
Okay.
But from next year, it will be 18 years.
Okay,
yes.
Prof.
Yes,
we hear that some parents and key stakeholders in the education sector are really not pleased with this decision. So how would compliance be monitored in terms of age declaration?
Well, you see, I think people are just damaging the future of their children. Those who are doing, now we have over 500 applications already submitted of people swearing to affidavit that their children were born in order to meet 16 or 18 years, backdating and upgrading the age of their children. This is false because they are not aware that they are creating serious problem for their children, because at the NECO level, at the WAEC level, when students were filling the form, their age had been declared. And those things, you can't hide one. JAMB is aware, and the JAMB has access to those dates. So you can't come and then start backdating. The right thing is to do the right thing. The national policy on education that we practice says 18. But the Honorable Minister, in his magnanimity, and because of democracy, allowed people to vote about it, that the effective date, in order to give notice for 18 years, will be from next academic session. And that is what it is. 16 years will be tolerated this year. But from next year, by God's grace, the Honorable Minister and the law and the National Policy on Education 2013-2014 had prescribed it clearly. And that is the rule. Let us try. Abnormality cannot be normalized. So it is important for us to do things according to the rule.
All right, Prof, quickly, on assumption of illegal admissions prior to 2027, what is the decision, briefly?
The decision is simply that we have been, because in 2017 we established caps, and we felt that because we need to regularize the regularity of the past. But we had operated that now for 8 years. So you cannot continue. What we are now having is that institutions are now admitting students and backdating the admission to pre-2017, and because of that advantage. And we have said that will not take place. We have given 1 month notice for anybody who has such pre-2017 admission to so declare now. And if you do not declare, you cannot bring them forward. And it's enough to also notify the student, not the student per se. We are aware that the parents are the ones involved in this under the table this. We will not tolerate such going further.
Professor Ishaq Oloyede, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the news. Thank you for your professional enlightenment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Moving on, President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of 7 qualified Nigerians to head strategic agencies and programs under the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development to facilitate the needed relief of Nigerians and ensure the effectiveness of humanitarian and social development programs. The appointees include Dr. Badamasi Lawal, Chief Executive Officer, National Social Investment Program Agency. Dr. Lawal holds a doctorate degree in education and previously served as a commissioner in Katsina State. Funlayo Olotu, Program Manager, National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office. Olotu holds a master's degree in business administration and she is a senior special assistant to the Governor of Lagos State on state lotteries. Others are Aishat Alubankudi, Program Manager, Grant for Vulnerable Groups. Princess Aderemi Adebola, Program Manager, Homegrown School Feeding. Abdullahi Al-Hassan Imam, Program Manager, National Cash Transfer Office. Ayuba Gufwan, Executive Secretary, National Commission for People with Disabilities, and Lami Binta Adamu Bello, Director General, National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons. The President expects the new heads of these critical agencies and programs to discharge the functions of their offices with utmost integrity and diligence so as to ensure that Nigerians, especially vulnerable groups, are the exclusive and direct beneficiaries of his administration's reconfigured welfare programs. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu felicitates with Senator Daisy Danjuma on her birthday. An accomplished lawyer, entrepreneur, and politician, Mrs. Danjuma represented Edo South Senatorial District in the Senate from 2003 to 2007. While commending the former senator for her philanthropic endeavors providing succor to the needy and the helpless, the President wishes her and her family good health and happiness. Now, the National Commission for Almajiri and out-of-school children's education is deeply concerned about the involvement of children in the ongoing protest in the country. A statement by the Special Assistant, Media and Communications of the Commission, Nuru Mohammed, while acknowledging the fundamental right of freedom of assembly and expression, the Commission strongly condemns the exposure of children to harm and violence. It further adds that the sight of children taken to the streets instead of being in classrooms is a stark reminder of the enormity of its task, and it is alarming to see that majority of protesters, particularly in the northern region, are children of school age who may not be attending school, which puts the children at risk of physical harm, emotional trauma, and exploitation. He appeals to parents and guardians to take control of their children and wards, prioritizing their safety and well-being while calling for calm and understanding among protesters, reiterating the commitment of the federal government to addressing grievances through peaceful and constructive means. Now, Kebbi State Deputy Governor, flood in Kebbi State is an annual natural disaster, and this year it's Argungu and Augie local government areas, cutting away their homes, farmlands, and means of livelihoods. Abubakar has details.
The recent heavy rainfall in the region caused devastating flooding in Kampani, Tigi, and Bayewa, resulting in widespread destruction of homes and farmlands, with estimated losses worth millions of naira. In response, the Kebbi State government, through SEMA, has provided vital relief materials including food, mattresses, blankets, and a cash donation of 5 million naira to affected households in temporary camps. The Deputy Governor, Senator Umar Tafida, who visited the victims, described the flood as an act of God and encouraged the victims to accept it with faith. He assured them that the administration is committed to improving their well-being and supporting them through this challenging time.
The government will sit down under the leadership of our governor to see which way to move forward so that we're able to resettle them permanently in a better place.
Victims described the flood as unprecedented, expressing heartfelt gratitude that there was no life lost to the disaster.
Federal government and donor agencies to come to our aid and assist us so as to continue our normal life.
Nobody in our community escaped with a single item. Households with 1 or 2 wives have lost all their apartments.
It was also another tragic event in Ungwarna Kalgo community in Kargo, where 3 families were displaced. The flood was as a result of filling station blocking the waterways. Abubakar, NTA News.
You're still watching the network news on NTA. Let's take another break, and when we return, some business reports with a busy businessman.
It's good to know you're here. And now talking business. In a bold move to drive economic growth and energy security in the country, the federal government is collaborating with stakeholders with the aim of accelerating the provision of affordable and sustainable energy solutions to Nigerians. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edu, stated that to immediately mitigate the economic impact of recent policy changes, there is the need to deploy strategic approaches to expedite the implementation of the PICNG. He stressed that effective planning and coordination are crucial to the success of the initiative. And now taking a look at the energy market, oil prices rebounded by 1% on Tuesday, pairing the previous session's loss, and on a supply concern amid an escalating Middle East conflict, stronger U.S. services sector data, and a cut in production at Libya's Sahara oil field. Brent crude futures gained 76 cents to $77.06 a barrel, while the U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures climbed 92 cents to $73.86. And on Monday, both benchmarks fell about 1% against a backdrop of fallen global stock markets, but that is being regained at the moment. And now taking a look at the market back home, investors lost 371.26 billion naira as the oil share index declined by 0.67% to end at 96,928.52 basis points. A total of 449.2 million traded shares in 9,381 deals, corresponding to a market value of 6.735 billion naira were traded. Today's data shows 39% improvement in volume, 8% improvement in turnover, but 4% decline in deals. The current market capitalization is 55 trillion naira, and on the aggregate, 120 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 30 gainers and 25 losers. United Bank for Africa recorded the highest volume of 62.8 million traded shares, followed by Owando 36.2 million, Veritas Capital Assurance 33.5 million, and Starling Bank on the 4th spot with 33.2 million. That is business news. Elizabeth, you can take it from here.
Thank you so much, Benny. Ekiti State Governor Abiodun Oyebanji has reiterated his commitment to discovering and nurturing talents in arts and creativity to promote the state's cultural heritage. The governor disclosed this during the foundation laying of International Center for Arts and Culture in Ado-Ekiti. Olukemi Sani reports.
The state government has embarked on various projects through the ministries in the state to enhance the performance of governance for the growth of the state. Governor Abiodun Oyebanji laid the foundation of International Center for Arts and Culture. The governor described the project as another initiative by his government aimed at encouraging youth to showcase their skills in arts and culture.
The International Center for Art and Culture, the foundation of which we are laying, is a visionary project that will serve as a beacon of our rich heritage, as a testament to our commitment to the arts. This milestone in our efforts toward fulfilling a better part of our promises to Ekiti people shall mark a defining moment in the cultural history of our beloved state.
Commissioner for Culture and Creative Economy, Professor Razak Bakari, commended the governor for supporting the vision of the ministry with the project, which is for the proper mainstreaming of culture in the state. The project, which is expected to be completed by March 2025, will comprise of a utility hall, museum, recreation hall, main theater, restaurants, staff quarters, and offices. In Ado-Ekiti, Olukemi Sani, NTA News.
Let's take a last break. We'll be right back. You're watching the Network News. Now let's turn attention to the Olympics, and our sportsman Ayodeji Makinde will give us some analysis. Aya, so where are we in the games?
Elizabeth, earlier at the opening of the news, I told you about Blessing Oborodudu and, of course, Favor Ofili missing out on podium finishes. But despite Ofili and Oborodudu not being there, we'll still have some blessings and favors ahead. But let's start by letting you know how we actually got here, because it all started in 1952, and it's interesting to know that despite Nigeria not reaching its peak at the Games, despite a debut at the 1952 Helsinki Games, although it took Nigeria 12 years for a first shade of medal, which was a bronze, won by Najim Mayegun at 1964 Tokyo Games. Our subsequent performances have been underlined by inadequate preparations, claims of unpaid allowances by athletes, internal campaign rows, and allegations of maltreatment by the athletes. However, over the years, we have won 27 medals. Yes, just a breakdown of what we've had so far since our debut at the Games in 1952. And of course, before we get to the breakdown of the sport and of course of the chances that we have, it's also proper to know that Nigeria went into the 2024 edition of the Games competing in 12 different sports. If we can have that on the screen. Oh, perfect. But this is just another breakdown of where we started from the 1952 Helsinki Games. Now, let's take a look at the 12 sports that Nigeria is participating in at the moment, starting with athletics, basketball, badminton, all the way to wrestling, and of course weightlifting. But it is at the moment Nigeria is still yet to have any shade of medal. Yes, the breakdown of 88 athletes that we're having at this year's event, and so far dominated by 63 female athletes, and of course 25 of the male athletes. Well, 2 of them couldn't make the podium today, talking about Blessing Oborodudu and of course Favor Ofili. But there will still be enough to look out for. That will be tomorrow in the Games, where we expect to see more of our expectations in terms of sports that we're expecting to still have a medal, and some that were already been ruled out of competition. Yes, sports that were very strong in athletics, we still have hopes of winning a medal there, talking about the women's 100 meters hurdles, and of course in the long jump where Ruth Usoro, Ruth Usoro, yes, and of course Ese Brume are already through to the final of the women's long jump. Badminton, we're no more. Fair chance in basketball because Nigeria will be taking on defending champions, the U.S. women's national basketball team. Of course, already been ruled out of boxing. Canoeing, we're through to the C2 500 meters women's event. And of course, in cycling, fair chance for Ese Ukpeseraye there. In football, no more. That's talking about Super Falcons couldn't pull through the group stage. In swimming, Nigeria is also out. In table tennis, out of the singles event, but in the doubles and mixed doubles, there could still be a slight chance Nigeria could make a podium finish. Taekwondo will be represented by a particular lady called Elizabeth Ayanacho, who unfortunately could not make the podium in 2020. And in weightlifting, very strong. And of course, we'll be waiting for what we expect to see when the wrestling event continues, talking about Odunayo Adekore and the rest of the athletes that will be representing Team Nigeria. Remember, Nigeria also made the power ranking in basketball. But let's keep our fingers crossed. There's still reasons to be optimistic.
Our eyes are on the medals table. Thank you so much for the updates. And that's the news. Thank you so much for your time. I'm Elizabeth Omori.